Hello viewers of TBEC, this is the Porsche 911 Turbo S. Why don't we check it out?
As always, we're going to start off with just a little bit of a background story to the 911. So this particular car from the 991 generation was the first generation that proceeded after the 997. It was sold between 2012 to about 2018. Those are the figures for South Africa. Also, it's actually very well known for being very efficient. Produces around just over 500 brake horsepower. Eugene will give you that correct figure, he'll show it right now on screen. And even though it had around 500 brake horsepower, it still managed to do 0 to 100 in about, now Porsche claims, 3 seconds. Most car reviewers and magazines actually got it to about 2.8, 2.7 seconds, which at the time was competitive with the Porsche 918, the Ferrari 458, the Ferrari 488, the Lamborghini Aventador, and even the McLaren, well, later in the generation, the McLaren 720S and the 650S.
So the power specs of this car is that it has 573 horsepower and 750 newton meters of torque, which is good for 0 to 60 as led to claim in around 3 seconds to 2.9 seconds. Because of the all-wheel drive system and because the engine is all the way to the rear, which hangs over the rear axle for better weight distribution. So talking about maintenance, it's a Porsche. What do you actually need to talk about since they're bulletproof reliable? So generally when you come to the back, the only thing that you get to see is your oil level and your water temperature. That's all you get, because in this generation they decided to hide everything for any plebeian person just to touch the engine. So with this one you only get to open this cover right here, which is for the aerodynamics and all the air to come out, since this is a rear mid-engine car and a lot of the flow is coming from the rear.
Now, as is with any Porsche 911, this particular angle is probably one of the simplest but also some of the most interesting. Normally when you drive the car at speed, you'll have air coming in from the front over here, and then the air will come up and around the headlight area and will come through this little cutout here. Now then it passes down the side and gets into the distinctive 911 turbo intake over there. We'll come back to that area right now because I want to come to the center lock wheels over here. Now Porsche uses the center lock wheels for the turbo class of 911s, the GT car class of 911s, and the Le Mans GT cars. And well, that's where this use case comes from, because they want to basically just be able to switch the rims and the tires as fast as possible. So, center lock, instead of having to have a whole lot of nuts and bolts all over the place. Now, moving closer to the front, this is where you start to notice that the 911 is essentially an evolved Beetle. You have the distinctive center lights here, which were made by Volkswagen. Of course, this is a Volkswagen Group car, and we're not going to jump into the fact that this is an idea from a particular friend of Kanye West's. But then we come down here and we see this sort of leaf-like fog lights, headlights, or fog lights actually. And this is how you know this is a 911 car, and particularly the first generation pre-facelift, because you have these sort of leaf-like lights here. In the 991.2, these are basically just 2 lines, and in the modern 992, it's just one clean-cut line. Over here, it's pretty much well designed. This is about as far as German creativity would go in terms of design of the car, where you have this sort of leaf design over here. Under that, you still have air intakes. Those go straight to the radiators. So we opened the hood right now, and just want to show you, it's actually kind of deeper than you think it is. So right now, I got a hoodie in here and a bag. And initially, we thought that the box for the tripod stand that we're using wouldn't fit, but it does. So I don't know what would fit, but I think, given my very reasonable judgment, that you'd fit a small briefcase in here, maybe one of those smaller travel bags, not your medium-sized ones, but carry-on bags should be able to fit, a good handbag, and a jacket.
Hello people, I decided to jump into the back seat of this car since it is after all a GT car and a Porsche 911, so you expect the back seats to actually be sort of comfortable, which it is not. I have no leg room, as my knees are literally experiencing right now. I have no headroom at all since I'm 5'7", 5'8". People under 6 foot maybe can fit. People over 6 foot will struggle. And I am just going to get out of here because I am not comfortable at all. If you want to put someone back here, put someone you hate, put your ex-girlfriend, put your ex-wife, please do not jump into the back seats because these are just really uncomfortable. And I am actually going to get out of here and jump into the driver's seat. Oh my god. Oh my god. So in here you can actually feel like this is a very high quality car, because Porsche really does know how to do high quality materials and products. I mean, this feels way more luxurious, and well, not really luxurious, but way more put together than even a Ferrari Roma that Leto and I were in about a year ago. And let's actually put the ignition in, since this is a Porsche, and Porsche is very well known for racing at Le Mans. You actually get inside and you put it on the right hand side, since this is a right hand drive car. Usually on left hand drive cars the ignition is actually on the left hand side. So like for the racers, you know, would run and then eventually like start the car. So like, let's actually put this in. Now that the car is on, your gauge cluster features around 5 dials. The one that really stares at you in the face is your tachometer, which goes all the way to 8,000 RPMs. And then on your left you have your speedometer, you have all your engine coolant temperatures over there. And then funny enough, you have your digital readouts, which you can control with a lever right here, which shows your TPM, your trip, how long you traveled, the vehicle information, your performance, the torque figures, your G-forces, since this is a sports car slash supercar. Back to the gauge cluster. So the one that really stares at you in the face is the tachometer, as you can see, which goes all the way to 8,000 RPMs. On your left you have your speedometer, which goes all the way to 350 kilometers an hour. Well, yes, kilometers an hour, which is around 205 miles an hour. Then you have your engine temperatures right there. Then on your far right, on the right hand side of the tachometer, you have your digital readout, which shows the G-force of how many G's you pull going into each corner or how fast you accelerate. And then as you keep going, you have a lot of information. You even have your pressure monitor for the tires. You have your trip, how long you've traveled, and your vehicle information of engine temperature and how much oil it actually needs. And then your torque, which shows your performance. And then on the far right is your basically your fuel gauge and your engine temperature of how hot and cold it is.
Of course, a Porsche interior wouldn't be a Porsche interior if it weren't for a whole lot of buttons for different things. Of course, here you have your Sport button, Sport Plus, your PDCC button, traction control off, you can adjust your ride height over here, and I actually forgot what this button is. Eugene, do you know?
That is your auto hold feature. So basically when you press it, you don't have to step on the brake as you come to a stop. The car will automatically leave it as it is until you eventually have to go, then it lets off the brake itself.
Right, and then after that you also have your hazards, then you also have your lock, and then of course the beautiful, well actually no, it's actually terrible. It's about as messy as the central stack, because you have your P, your R, and whatever, all those things that you need for driving an automatic car, but you also have them printed out over here, well actually engraved into the top of here, in case you are blind and you couldn't see this. You also have manual plus and minus in case you didn't already see that or feel it over here, because of course you have to have it in braille, because blind people apparently do drive when it comes to Porsche. Since we still have a whole lot of buttons to cover, we have seat heat. We have defrosting your mirrors. You also have defogging your mirrors. You have air going all around. Your AC buttons, temperatures for both sides. What else do you have? You have radio controls. That's sound. That's your tuner. You still have sound over there. Source button, media, tuner again. Phone. That's your phone button. This is for answering, that's for declining, navigation, map, CD, because, well, this did release in 2012. People still had CDs back then. Got your temperature readout, and the rest of the infotainment system. This is a very, very much Audi infotainment system. I mean, if you have an A4, or maybe even an A3 from the same era, you might notice it. It pretty much looks almost exactly the same. Again, this is Volkswagen Group. Then you have your air cardons over here. Events.
And if you look all the way up, probably the most expensive option on this car is that clock right there, which came with a Sport Chrono package, which is actually used for timing your laps on a racetrack, which for a Turbo S, I don't know why you would, since this is generally a cruising car and a straight line car. But that is probably the most expensive option on this car. So that has been the Porsche 911 Turbo S 991.1 Turbo S, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this extensive in-depth review, especially myself sitting in that uncomfortable back seat. So like, comment, subscribe, and hope we see you guys again for the next review.
Wait. It wouldn't be a review without a conclusion of some sort. So, my little conclusion is, well, it's an older model.
And you hate
it's
it?
2014 model. No, I don't hate it. I like it. I actually do like it. Sure, it's got a lot of the things that people don't like about Porsche. I don't like about Porsche. But you can consider it sort of a period piece artwork, if you can. Plus, it's about 8 years old. It's going to get older and it's going to appreciate, which is important. It's a 2014 car, so I think...
You hate it.
No, I don't think I hate it. I think I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it.
He hates it.
It's cheaper than its rivals. It's faster than its rivals. And it's a Porsche, so it'll last longer than its rivals. So, come on down to Audi Rivonia and buy it. It's under 2 million. It's, I think, about 1.4 million rand. It's a really good price, very reasonable. Reasonable price for a supercar. A reasonable price for a car that can go 318 kilometers an hour. So come on down.